Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. I'm very glad to have you join me here. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today, we're going to discuss a few terms or ideas, and then we will add to your story with a setting. The terms we are looking at today are sympathy and empathy. Now, before I give definitions, I will tell you that these are characteristics for your characters. So let's define sympathy. Sympathy means feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. Some synonyms for this definition are commiserate, pity, condolence, consolation, comfort, solace, support, and several others. An antonym is indifference. A second definition is understanding between people, common feeling, and the synonyms are rapport, fellow feeling, affinity, empathy, harmony, accord, compatibility, closeness, and several more. In real life, people today will express this with phrases like, I feel you, or I get you. That's today's time and today's setting. So that's another important thing is to remember your setting. They're not going to say that in the 1950s. They wouldn't say, I feel you. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, this sympathy is an important characteristic for our protagonist. We don't want our protagonist to be indifferent. Now, usually the antagonist knows how to say the same phrases, even though there may not be the feelings behind them. A lot of times people want to believe that someone understands them and has sympathy for them. Think of Ursula in The Little Mermaid. She pretended to show sympathy to Ariel. Oh, you poor child. She pretended to understand Ariel's love for Eric. So Ariel agreed to let Ursula cast a spell on her. Without this deception of false sympathy from Ursula, you wouldn't have a story. In a lot of stories, the protagonist feels for the people's misfortune in a great way, and that encourages him or her to fight for the people. Oh, leave a comment on a storybook or movie where one character has sympathy for others and tell if it's genuine or fake. Now, empathy was a synonym for the second definition. So we're going to get a definition of this term, and then we're going to compare the two, and maybe even split a few hairs. Idiom alert, idiom alert. Empathy means the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Some synonyms are compassion, sympathy, pity, feeling, concern, considerateness, tenderness, tender-heartedness, sensitivity, and a whole lot more. Well, you say, that sounds a lot like sympathy. And the two terms even share some synonyms. So what's the difference between the two terms? Sympathy and empathy are related, but distinct emotions. Sympathy involves feeling sorry or pity for someone, while empathy involves understanding or sharing someone's feelings, almost like whatever happened to the other person happened to you. Sympathy is more external, an external expression of emotion, while empathy is internal, emotional response. If you have empathy, you feel it. Sympathy is more like having gone through something before in the past and remembering or imagining what it would feel like, or sometimes we can put ourselves in situations or think we can put ourselves in situations even if we haven't experienced it. So we can imagine it. But if we've experienced it, we can remember it, what it felt like. Empathy is feeling like you're experiencing the situation with the other person. Empathic people have to be very careful not to take on the feelings of others. It's almost, you do it without thinking. You already feel that pain, whatever that is theirs. So if an empathic person is around someone having a bad day, the empath will have a bad day. So the empathic people have to learn how to shield themselves from taking on other people's feelings and stuff like that. So sympathy is the understanding the pain and suffering, but not getting mired in the emotions. Sympathy is healthier than empathy. Sympathy is still being able to look at the situation as an observer. So, how would you use empathy in your stories? Now, remember, when I give examples, that does not limit you. You can think of other ways. But if you choose to use this characteristic, maybe you would choose a romance where one partner takes advantage of the empathic person. Also, it might take empathy for a character to risk his or her life to help another character. But oftentimes, this can be an enabling characteristic. You feel so much for them. You're so mired in the emotions that you enable them into this instead of helping them to actually get out of it. So sometimes it's not as helpful as we would like it to be. Leave a comment on if you know an empathic person. Now let's turn to your writings. Pull out your story with a setting. We don't have a shared plot for this one. We're just going to pull it out and continue from wherever we left off. For reference, we started this in season 3.1, episode 17. And of course, YouTube says 3-1. I think I might do a letter next time. If I have several books on a story, it'll be episode 3A, or I guess it'll be 4A or 5A instead of 5.1, just to cut down on the confusion. Anyway, side topic. Anyway, we started in season 3.1, episode 17, and then we continued. If you check the description below, you hit the more, it will list all the episodes and it will have the original setting where we started. And if you are starting today, that's fine. Just look at the setting, read the setting, start with that, just screenshot it or whatever. You can email me and I send it, or you can screenshot it, whichever is your choice, and you can start today. So, then you can send it in. Of course, all works shared on the channel are copyright protected, so there's more reason to send it in, because that will be your proof that your writings are yours when I read them to my viewers. Send your writings to writewithmykela@gmail.com. Now, pause the video. Write a scene or a page or at least 500 words or whatever your goal you have. So you as a writer have to know your goal. You write your goal and then come back and I'll read what I wrote. Welcome back, writers. Let me read what I wrote. Kahira had read the spell and read the spell many times, but everything didn't seem to be going in her head. There were words to say and there were herbs to add. Some of the herbs she had never heard of. Others seemed very specific, like it called for eucalyptus radicea essential oil, and stated very clearly not to use eucalyptus globus essential oil. Kahira also needed to drop in some hairs from the wolf pack leader and her own hair. She wasn't sure which wolf was the leader, but if she learned that, she might need extra hairs because the spell had a certain radius. Kahira sighed. This all seems so complicated. There was a soft knock on the door, and Enora poked her head in. Did you find the spell you need? Are you ready to try it? Kahira sighed, and she told Enora all the issues. Enora waved her hand before herself. You worry too much. Then Enora explained that Hamley would have some of the essential oils and Truly would have others. She explained that someone could hold the book for her, so she could read the spell. And Enora volunteered to hold the book. Enora also told her that she understood the wolves, and the wolves would let her know who the pack leader was. Excuse me. Kahira left the room and found that they were sitting for lunch. Truly introduced her to Hamley, and Hamley assured her that after lunch he would show her the essential oils he had. Calista leaned closer to her and whispered, They want you to do the spell after lunch, so we can head to the village and protect it. Kahira looked at her sister with wide eyes. Then she looked around the table. Most people were looking down their food and trying not to interfere with her conversation with Calista. Lunch ended way too quickly for Kahira, but she went outside where someone had set up the great cauldron over a medium-sized campfire. As they gathered around the cauldron, wolves started joining the circle. An extra large wolf stood for Kahira. Excuse me. Kahira said, Were you the wolf that first spoke to me when I was in the cave? She received, Yes, and there is much to tell you. Thankfully, we can think together, but once you lift the curse from us, we will be able to talk. The wolf paused a few moments and then continued. You must know that the vampires set a spell over George before you left for the cabin. There was nothing we could do to stop it, but that was why you were on the wrong road. I know if I had told you this that night, you would not have believed. The wolf sat down to let Kahira get some of his hair. He thought to her, If you stroke my fur a few times, you should get the hair you need. Kahira went down on one knee and stroked the wolf. She indeed came away with a handful of hair. One of Truly's and Tom Scott's daughters walked over with a paper plate for Kahira to put the hair on. Kahira brushed her hands together over the plate. Her mind was running through her new information. A vampire had cast a spell on George. But from the wolf's thoughts, it had been prior to them leaving. Did the spell also cause the collapse or heart attack or whatever had happened to George? What if she had stayed in the car with George instead of leaving him to find him help? Did the vampires come to get him after she left him? So many questions were in her mind. But she saw the people arranging themselves, so she had to try to do her important part. She knew that the warlocks needed the werewolves to fight the hive tonight, if the hive went back to the small town. Before she started the spell, Calista placed the cuffs with the garnet gems on her and attached an elaborate wide cloth belt around her waist, which Calista had to tie, and the belt also had garnet gems. There was also a crown. Kahira didn't want all the adornments, but she didn't protest. Finally, she raised her arms to start the spell, and she started seeing a bright white glow all around. She didn't know what that meant. She read the book as Enora held it out. It opened to the page she needed, and Hamley gave her the essential oil or herb she needed at the time she needed it. In her peripheral vision, she could see more wolves coming to the circle. She was glad about that. She didn't want to say the spell too many times. Then it was time to drop the hair from the wolf pack leader. She didn't think to save some, but a lot dropped back on the plate. Once she dropped the hair in, the wolves dropped to the ground and writhed in pain. This alarmed Kahira. She thought she did the spell incorrectly. Enora grabbed her wrist. She whispered in her ear, "Don't worry. They knew this was part of it, but they freely chose this." Kahira looked around. She started seeing flashes, and she didn't understand, but it looked like a great battle was going on all around her. She saw werewolves fighting vampires, and she saw her grandmother casting spells. Her grandmother looked at her and said, "You must erect a shield for them until the spell is fully released from them." Kahira said, "I don't know the spell." Her grandmother motioned to the book. Enora glanced around, but she realized something was going on. Kahira turned the page in the book, and Enora resumed holding it so Kahira could read it. Kahira read the next spell, and she saw the bright white light form a more solid dome over them. Kahira started getting stabbing pains in her head and her arms. Spots of puffy white lights clouded her vision, and other lights sprayed out points of light. Then Callista collapsed on the ground. Okay, writers, that is all what I'm adding today. That was a little over 1,000 words. Leave a comment on what you think Kahira was seeing. Was she seeing a vision? Was she seeing the past? What was she seeing? Leave a comment on if you were Callista. Would you be jealous that Kahira was queen? She had the crown? Or would you be happy that it was not you? Leave a comment on what the wolf thought about the vampire casting a spell on George. Did you know that already? Did you guess that? Did I put in too much foreshadow? Did I put in too little foreshadow? Did you know that? Did you guess that? So leave that comment. And join me Friday for Eleni's Pride, Gaining Freedom, Chapter 22. Join me Tuesday for some more jargon. Leave a comment on a term you would have me discuss, or your favorite terms so far. And there's some of these terms we could probably do over again because there's so much variety. Just because I give you one idea to use the term doesn't mean there aren't like 3 and 4 or 5 ideas more out there to use that term. So we could redo terms as well. Oh, there's so many words, so many ideas, lots of fun stuff. If you have an idea for a writing prompt, you can leave that in the comments as well. Don't forget to visit my website, bymykela.com, read some character bios, send your writings and chapters to writewithmykela@gmail.com, and leave comments on your favorite characters. If you hit the like, subscribe, and the bell, then other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. And we would have a bigger community. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.